I've just spent the last 3.5 minutes trying to straighten out my camera and it's still crooked and you still can't see the top of my head, but it's 3.5 minutes that I would much rather spend talking about this movie. So as you can tell by the title of this video, I'm doing a recap, or retelling rather, of the movie Them. So this movie will be containing spoilers, so if you don't want it spoiled, go and watch the film. So this movie came out in 1954. The cool thing about this movie is that it is the first horror movie where giant insects are the enemy. So a little bit of trivia there for you. And now what makes this video a little bit different from my other videos is that I usually do all, if not most, of my makeup on camera. As you can see, I've pretty much done everything. I wanted to go for a bit of a slightly grungy 60s shocking blue kind of makeup look. And I will quit rambling and jump straight into the film. So the film starts off in the desert in New Mexico, and we are joined by Sergeant Peterson and his partner Blackburn. And yeah, they're just out on patrol when they come across this poor, sweet looking little girl. The poor darling, she's just aimlessly wandering the desert all by herself. She wouldn't be any more than like 4 or 5 years old. She's in a catatonic state. They pull over, Peterson gets out, he tries to talk to her, she just catatonic. She's not saying a word, she's not answering any of his questions. So he and Blackburn are like, you know what, we have to take her with us. She needs to be checked out. She's been wandering the desert. We'll take her with us and we'll see if we can sort her out. Suddenly they get a report regarding an abandoned trailer. Sorry, not a trailer, a caravan. We call them caravans in Australia, but it's a trailer. It's like a house on wheels. So they go check it out. The place is in shambles, to say the least. It's got a massive hole in the side. Everything is in disarray. I think they do find traces of blood, so clearly there's been a struggle, a fight. The place is a wreck, basically. Peterson notices some cash in the trailer, so he's like, well, this doesn't really seem like a robbery gone wrong or anything. The money's still here. There are no valuables stolen. Him and Blackburn are wandering around outside. One of them goes, you know what, this kind of looks like an animal attack, but we never see cougars or any kind of like dangerous animals are in this area, so it's weird. So anyway, they end up calling an ambulance for the little girl. And Peterson says to Blackburn, you know, once the doctors have a look at the little girl, I'd really like to ask her some questions. I think she's the only one who'll be able to tell us what happened here. But anyway, in the meantime, let's head on over to the general store. We might as well check in with the general store manager, see if he's seen or heard anything. So they go to the nearby general store. That is in shambles as well. It looks in a similar state to the trailer. Again, the money's still there. It wasn't a robbery gone wrong. They end up finding the body of the general store manager in the cellar. They also arrange for some inspectors to come and check out the trailer for clues. Peterson says to Blackburn, you know what, I'm going to head back home to headquarters, and hopefully by the time I get there, the little girl will be ready to start talking. And Blackburn says, yeah, you know what, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to wait for those inspectors to finish up the trailer, and then I'm going to ask them to come over here and I'll just meet them here. They part ways. Blackburn all of a sudden hears, it's like a pulsating high-pitched noise coming from outside. So he goes out to investigate. It gets louder and louder. And then we, as the audience, we just see his silhouette from outside the general store. We hear him scream and a couple of shots are fired and then just nothing. The scene changes to police headquarters. The way they're talking about Blackburn, he is presumed dead. I'm guessing they couldn't find his body. So there's this guy named Robert Graham. I'll just call him Graham for the sake of this, because I'm going to be calling most of the characters by their last name, let's face it. He's an FBI agent. He ends up joining the investigation. They're basically going through all the possibilities. Is this a crazy killer on the loose? Is this an animal attack that we're not aware of? So they send some samples and photos and things like that of both crime scenes to just scientists in the area, zoologists that they know. A Department of Agriculture gets a copy of these photos, and they're just trying to figure out what the heck happened or what it could possibly be. And during this time, an autopsy was performed on the owner of the general store. The doctor says that they found a high quantity of formic acid in his system, which I thought was really interesting. So they give that information to, you know, the scientists and the zoologists and the Department of Agriculture as well, because you never know. So the Department of Agriculture end up sending two myrmecologists. I really hope I pronounced that term correctly. Myrmecology is a branch of entomology which focuses on the scientific study of ants. So these myrmecologists are Dr. Harold Medford and his daughter Pat. They have a theory right off the bat, but they don't want to say anything just yet until they are fully convinced that their theory has some merit to it. So Dr. Harold, he asks to see the little girl, and what he does is he pours a little bit of formic acid into a tiny glass and he holds it under her nose, and the scent of this formic acid, it jolts something in her. She suddenly screams and goes, "Them! Them!" The two doctors then ask to be taken to the site where the little girl was found. Pretty soon they encounter a giant ant. This is the first part of the film where we actually see these giant ants. They're about 9 feet long, huge. So Harold finally expresses his theory that these could be regular ants that became mutated from leftover radiation from the atomic bomb test in 1945. I know a bunch of you would have seen Oppenheimer this year, so that atomic bomb test that the movie was famous for, that's what they're talking about. I thought that was kind of cool that I checked out this movie the same year as Oppenheimer came out. So they compare it to, I believe it was called Trinity. At least Trinity was the code name that Oppenheimer gave this test of the atomic bomb. That's the theory we have, and that's basically what the film goes with, that they're mutant ants from the leftover radiation of the atomic bomb in 1945. So when they see this giant ant, Howard gets Peterson and Graham to shoot the antenna, essentially blinding the ant, and then they kill it. The Medfords say they need to find the rest of the colony ASAP. Basically, they need to find the ant nest. They fly over the New Mexico desert, eventually coming across a gigantic anthill. Like, you could not miss it. They chuck a bunch of cyanide bombs inside. They wait a little while, and then Peterson, Graham, and Pat, they all put on these like gas suits, gas masks, and then they climb down into the anthill to see if there are any survivors. And by survivors, I mean surviving ants, obviously. They manage to locate the egg chamber, and they find the leftover eggshells of what Pat claims were two queens and their consorts. So queens and their consorts, they're ants with wings, and basically their purpose is to fly to another area where they breed and then populate a new ant colony. And as you can imagine, because these ants are 9 feet long and killing people, that's quite the concern. They contact Washington so that they can help with the search. They can pass on any correspondence, any reports they receive anywhere in the world, basically, in regards to people claiming to have seen giant ants. Because they need to know where these queens went. I mean, they're huge. They could have flown anywhere. They need to find where these queens went, and they need to stop them from creating new ant colonies. One of the first reports they received was a pilot from Texas who crashed his plane when he claimed that he was being followed by two ant-shaped UFOs. So he's in a psychiatric ward in a hospital. So they go and interview him. They ask what directions the ants flew in so that they can help locate the queen. They then receive another report of a queen and her offspring on a freighter. It was like an SOS telegram. Sadly, there were no survivors, and then the freighter was subsequently sunk by the US Navy. Peterson and Graham go to Los Angeles to investigate a large sugar robbery. While there, they inspect the body of a man who was supposedly killed in a car accident. However, one of his arms was missing. Apparently lost control of the vehicle, hit a sign, but the guy who performed the autopsy said, something like that would not cause a death like this. He was also driving with his two sons, and they were nowhere to be found. Peterson and Graham end up coming across another lead. There was a man in a a hospital in Los Angeles who claimed that he saw giant ants like running in and out of the storm drain pipes that he could see from his window. So they go down to where he was pointing and they actually find a model aeroplane, something that two young boys might like to play with. So they start thinking, well, I wonder if the kids got scared and they ran into the storm drain. With help from the army, Peterson and Graham infiltrate the storm drains. They need to confirm if any new queens have hatched, and they need to make sure that these queens have not flown away yet before they can begin gassing, bombing, setting fire to this ant colony. Peterson hears the sound of footsteps. Definitely doesn't sound like ants. He's not hearing that sort of like high-pitched screeching noise that they make throughout the film. He does, however, smell the formic acid, so he believes that while the sound that he's hearing isn't the ants themselves are nearby. So he investigates through this like giant pipe, and that's where he finds the two boys. He also stumbles across two ants who are looking at these two boys as if they're going to be their next meal. Peterson kills the two ants with his flamethrower and he rescues the kids. However, before he can get himself to safety, another ant comes out of seemingly nowhere, grabs him with his mandibles and kills him. Graham, Harold, Pat and the rest of the army guys locate the chamber where the queen and her hatchlings are. Harold is confident that these are the only hatchlings and none of them have flown away. So he says to everyone there that they can destroy the rest of this colony, that they can destroy these ants, and this should be it. Harold and Pat wonder what else could come of the radiation from the other atomic bomb test since 1945. And that's the end of the movie. I know, I feel like I haven't been filming all that long, not even 30 minutes. The movie itself is pretty good. It's no Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, that's for sure. I feel like it wasn't as funny as Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. You know, if you have an interest in old horror movies from the 50s, I definitely think it's up there, and it's kind of like a cool moment in film history, if you will, considering it's the first horror movie to have giant insects in it. It sort of like started a trend, if you will. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this makeup look. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.